You're listening to the Perth Property Show, Australia's only weekly property podcast by West Australian experts for West Australian listeners. Catch your latest episode every Monday at 7 a.m.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Perth Property Show. My name's Trent Fleskens, your host as always. This week we have an industry titan in the room, a name synonymous with real estate, especially south of the river and especially with the colour pink. You know that colour, you know that brand. It's Tom Carlin of Carlin Real Estate, and his base really is around that Cockburn Central area. And I am ashamed to say, Tom, that in nearly 350 episodes, nearly 7 years now, we haven't featured this part of Perth ever.
Which seems crazy, given all the development and the amount of buyers down there and potential suburbs have got.
And so much change as well, and we like to report on change because change is scary for people, but it's also where there is opportunity. And this podcast is all about opportunity and informing ourselves as a community with each other's expertise and knowledge on where those opportunities are and how we might make the most of those for ourselves and our families going forward. So we're very lucky to have you in today, Tom, and thank you for your time. Before we start exploring those suburbs, I wanted to explore a little bit about your story, because not only do you have a story to share about these suburbs today, your success, your Atwell, your Aubin Grove, Beeliar, Treeby, these parts of the world. You've got a story about becoming a really successful real estate agent from not being one over a number of years now. Yep. And there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who would look up to you from afar. How did it all start?
It came out here when I was 19. Basically, I was an IT engineer, could not get a job. I was only offered an apprenticeship and I was a full-blown qualified engineer. Jumped into car sales for 4 weeks when I got here. That was the only other job that I could get and hated it. I remember driving home from selling a car to a lady up in Northam, I think it was like 2 hours away, and I cried all the way home, and I vowed that I'd never do it, and I never went back to it.
What's the difference between selling cars and houses?
I believe back then it was the ethics in the industry, what we had to do. I sold a car that we didn't have to disclose balloons. I'd never done anything so dishonest and what I classed as dishonest and horrendous, and I'm not labelling that's the whole car industry. That was just my particular job in the car industry, but it was a dog-eat-dog world at that stage when I was into it, and that was back in 2007.
You'd also say real estate industry is a bit of a dog-eat-dog world, isn't it?
It definitely is, but I think the good thing about the real estate industry is that if you choose to be a step above, you can remain a step above.
And you're rewarded for it.
Yeah, 100%.
You're not hamstrung by it.
Yeah, I built my career on it. I built my career on doing the right thing by people, time and time again.
You've also built a bit of a team around you as well. It's hard to do this by yourself, especially when you start scaling. I think a lot of lessons that young real estate agents need to learn as quickly as possible, and to be frank, mortgage brokers as well, is that scaling a good team is really your only way to being able to scale your own time and your revenues as a real estate agent. You can't do it all yourself.
100%. I had a PA within 3 months of getting in the industry. So I was 19, pure rookie. $26,000 a year on reception. I did real estate at night time and on the weekends. They gave me Bertram as a suburb because no one in the office could do it. So I actually started in Success. My first office was literally on Beeliar Drive, Success. And yeah, I went into Bertram and did it. And within 3 months, I just went and door knocked and went hard and then got a PA because I learned leveraging my time was everything. Not just leveraging your time though and being able to do more, but choosing what I was going to and not going to do. I wasn't going to do cold calls, and so I got someone to do them. I did them, hated them, and I still do them now, but I hate them, so I just pay people to do them because I know, well, some people love doing them. I've got some on my team that love doing that, and it is part of the job. So yeah,
cold calling is one of the scariest things to do in the world, isn't it? But it can also be, when you think sales industry, people are remunerated inordinately for sales if they can pull it off, compared to someone providing a functional role. For example, your role you spoke about in the engineering space. You'd never dream about salaries that are made in the real estate industry being an engineer.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless maybe you were working in AI right now, or these sort of parts of the world.
Yeah, but even then, I watch a lot of the bigger salaries and the bigger companies. We can literally earn millions. The sacrifice that I made was phenomenal. I didn't drink for 6 years. I hardly partied, didn't go out, didn't have any friends.
Doesn't sound like a sacrifice to me.
It certainly was. With that, I built a long-lasting career that stands through anything.
Sounds like an investment to me, and I think a lot of people lack that mindset about investing their time, let alone their focus on these skill sets that are essentially repeatable and scalable over your lifetime. Once you learn how to be a good salesperson, you'll always have that. So it's a muscle you grow, I think. And it's not about just selling property, it's about selling your brand. It's about selling the skills you've developed as well. You see so many highly talented people in the industry who are the worst salespeople of their own skills skills and are undervalued for their whole life.
Yeah, I agree. I always say to them, I actually don't sell property because I won't ever sell property. I sell hopes and dreams. If I meet a buyer and I'm honest and upfront in the listing presentation, if I meet a buyer and this property is not for them, I will match them to another property in someone else's home.
That's not the first time I've heard that, in that your job isn't really to sell the house, it's to match the hopes of the individual buyer with something,
correct,
a lifestyle, a location you might be able to offer.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's always going to be a house that's probably a little bit more applicable to them next door, but it's just not for sale at the moment.
Yeah.
That journey, you said 17 years. Has it had its ups and downs?
Oh, it's had a lot of ups and downs. I've nearly lost everything twice over. Been through 2 separations, went through a total company change, and had some really low points. Not just in business, but mentally as well. Came out when I was 27 as gay, which I went through a whole mental depression over that, and accepting who I was and accepting me as a person.
You need a good team around you, don't you? And that's not just
good
your professional
people,
team, but
100%.
Friends and family.
100%.
I was saying to you off air, we were just asking each other, how are we going? And my perspective on those things is we can choose to have a fairly simple life if we want, but we also can choose to have quite complex lives where we're putting out fires on a daily basis, and it can get pretty rough sometimes where life comes at you from every single direction, and you genuinely need to come back, I think, to those simple tenets of the things you can control and the people who unconditionally love you and support you, and that's a safe place. And that's where you rebuild from, whether it's from a daily basis or a yearly basis. I think what we all need is just that safe corner to, again, scale back up from if things aren't going exactly how we plan. But the cool thing about property is it is unrelenting. It continues and it will always be there, and there's always a house to sell if you've got that vision and that dream for those sellers to impart as well. Let's focus on that journey about the last, let's say, 5 years, if we can, in these suburbs. And what we know really homogeneously across Perth is most things have gone up 70 to 80%. If it hasn't, it's because it's lost some level of amenity or interest, or it was somehow in the period of COVID deemed to have been overpriced at the time. And then those suburbs that were undervalued, either from a replacement cost perspective or from, at the time, an amenity perspective, have outperformed that 70, 80%. Where would you characterise that Cockburn Central area in Perth with relation to the rest of, let's say, south of the river? Does it sit pretty middle of the lane in terms of middle Perth, average Joe, middle salary, middle aspirations, or is it sit slightly above or below that in your perspective?
I'd say it sits slightly above that because it's not your average. We've got some now in Cockburn, and people don't realise it, but when we look at some of the suburbs, we're getting $2-3 million houses down there. So like one in Beeliar, $2 million that they've just been offered on a suburban house. So yeah, they are business people. Like the people that live there have had a business, built a business, a very successful business, wanted to be near the coast, quite like the suburb, get the views of the house. But then you have got the mix of the sort of middle class people that are starting out and getting their first home as well in that exact same suburb. So you can get a house in Beeliar for sort of $600,000-$700,000 now as a starter home, but you can also go up to $2 million, and I'm talking within a stone's throw of each other, 3 or 4 streets away.
That's actually a good thing.
Yeah,
I think within every suburb you want to have that variability of socio-economic space.
Yeah, 100%. Generally, I say most people down there are quite aspirational people moving up the ladder, if you like. We get the people that climbing up from the second and the third home, always wanting something a bit better. Most people down there are FIFO workers. We get a lot of FIFO in the suburbs as well. Some city workers, a lot of city workers, but yeah, we do get a lot of FIFO because it's really good links to the trains and to the airport, and that also pushes the price up because they're earning the money so they can afford to pay.
Wow, that really surprises me. Would you say that characterization has evolved since you'd first started selling in the area? These were greenfield suburbs 17 years ago.
Yeah, no, it definitely has. There was a lot of families when I first started out, a lot of older people. The older people actually moving more out of the suburbs. So now it is a lot more younger and families still, but still a lot of them are propped up by the income of the FIFO lifestyle.
Can you give us a little bit of a league ranking in these suburbs? If I threw out there Beeliar, Cockburn Central, Success, Atwell, Aubin Grove, Treeby, and probably Hammond Park, if I can. That's really those suburbs that sit around Cockburn Central. Could you give me a league table? Yeah,
I'd probably put Yangebup in there as well.
Sure.
So we've got Yangebup, Beeliar, and these have always been my core suburbs. Reason being is just before we get to the coast of the Coogee suburbs, so it was always Yangebup, Beeliar. You come across, you've got your South Lake, Success, and then Hammond Park below that, and then the opposite side, we've now got Wandy, Aubin Grove, Atwell, and then Treeby at the top of that. So that's a corridor that I've always always worked.
And they all centre around Cockburn Central, really.
100%. And the development going along around there. So let's talk about that first, because that's one of the biggest developments, and it's going to be one of the biggest shopping centres in the Southern Hemisphere. But also the development of Cockburn Central is massively changed.
Hasn't that already been done?
Yeah. No, the shopping centre's got absolutely so much. Eventually it's going to have cinemas, and it's going to be like Carousel eventually.
So that's the plan, is the Carousel on the freeway, essentially.
100%. Yeah, because whilst it's been expanded, it's nowhere near what the potential is. It's still predominantly a single story. You've got the car park underneath, but it's still a predominantly single story shopping centre.
You're right. It does sit a level below the Carousels, the Karen Ups.
Exactly. Yeah. So when that comes in, it's going to be phenomenal. Eventually there'll be a cinema. There's no cinema in. You've got to go to Hoyt's Garden City, and those little things do have an impact. The train stations have massively helped with the train stations being there. But in a league of top to bottom, it's changed a lot, because Beeliar and Yangebup are now commanding huge pricing. Like I'm saying, $1.5-2 million is quite easy to get in those suburbs for the beautiful homes, these big flash 2-story mansion type homes.
I would have had them at the bottom back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. They would have been. Those sometimes have grown 100% of what we could sell them for 6-7 years ago. So that's probably the peak of the market, is those Beeliar. They are commanding huge price, and one that we've just sold in there, 15-16 years old. It would have been worth $550. We've just sold it for just over $1 million, $1.5 million, and it's 15-16 years old, 4x2, beautiful house, but still will need renovating eventually. So those suburbs, they're commanding the pricing because people want to be close to that coastline. You've still got the freeway and easy access, but you've got the coast as well. You've got the shopping centre, you've got all the amenities around you, but it's that sort of balance of lifestyle, if you like. So that Yangebup and Beeliar will be number one or number two, but the hard thing with those suburbs is that you've got the two different sides of them. You've got the new sides and the new estates commanding these massive pricing, and then you've got the older pockets as well. From there, I'd probably jump over to say Treeby is probably number 3 in terms of pricing.
Now that surprises me, because that's a brand new suburb. Is that where most of that value is, though, in people really just paying for that new construction and the sexy marketing and photos?
I wouldn't say necessarily that's where the value is. I think the value is in the location. We're getting a lot of Canning Vale buyers that predominantly were in that Canning Vale market that are buying in Treeby, which is pushing it up. You're getting the city buyers that go, I want to get off the freeway before it all bottlenecks, because you've got to remember about Treeby, it is right before the bottleneck of the traffic. So when you're travelling north to south, you literally get to Cockburn Central. At the moment, it then jumps down to 2 lanes, and it is a nightmare. Whereas you get off at Treeby, and it's literally an easy commute still. And you've still got the Cockburn buyers that are still buying there as well. So you've got all these different types of buyers. We're getting the Leeming buyers jump down to there. You've got the Aubin Grove buyers wanting to jump up. You've got the Canning Vale buyers coming out towards the freeway, and that is what's pushing. And again, Treeby is commanding $1.5-2 million on some of the 2-story properties at the moment, and even single stories are in the mid ones at the moment.
There's a big Indian community that's been pushing from Canning Vale, and they come with, I guess, a preference for good schools.
Yes.
And money as well. Is that where most of it's coming from? Is it people wanting to stay within their community in a similar way that you see a lot of the Chinese community in Willerton, for example?
100%. The Indians stick together, and I'm talking like multiple friends in the same streets, and I'd probably say at least 60-70% of the buyers are the Indian community around those suburbs. Wow. It obviously varies on the house and things like that, but there is a huge Indian community, and they're willing to pay big dollars for it as well.
It's interesting because we do also see a strong push in the Indian community from Caversham, Dayton, Brabham, Henleybrook as well. But we're talking numbers that are more like $700,000-800,000 in these parts of the world. Yeah. And again, it's to be close to the temples and these places. So it's quite interesting to me to see a real price differential on what people are happy to pay in their community north of the river versus what I would say is an equivalent concentration in that Canning Vale to Treeby, Piara Waters, Harrisdale space as well. The amenity really must be viewed as being much higher.
Yeah, I think it is, because it's obviously much easier access to everything. So you look at Treeby, for example, and even Canning Vale, like, this is where the Canning Vale buyers are pushing across, because they're getting a massive premium for their house in Canning Vale now, and then so they're trading that up and then trading to a newer suburb, where they're getting in the suburb, you've got IJs that are amazing, you've got the schools and the shops, and so you can go into your suburb and house yourself in your suburb and do everything you want in Treeby. But then within 10-15 minutes, you're in the city, or you're at the beach, or within 5 minutes, you're at Cockburn Gateway Shopping City. So it's fantastic in that, and that's where they are trading up into that suburb as an upgrade.
What's next?
Down from there, I'd probably say is actually Hammond Park, in my opinion. And again, newer suburb, newer homes, which is attracting people, but more so the amenities that are on offer, newer sports facilities, new shopping centres, new schools that are all popping up, and more so the smaller ones as well. People are going for more like that village lifestyle. So when the developers are now putting in the small coffee shops and the small shopping centres, which is creating that village with the parks around there, that's what people are buying into.
To be honest, that's exactly what I think a lot of people in their 20s and 30s are really valuing. Since COVID, it's changed. People are really pushing back, wanting to be in that village. And you see it with prices going through the roof in places like Shenton Park, West Leederville, North Perth, Mount Lawley, Subiaco, Vic Park. It's not specifically that the amenity has gotten that much better. There's not a new shopping centre or whatever. It's that people are investing themselves back into that small community where they can walk to the coffee shop, they can walk their kids to the primary school. That's a hard sell in a lot of those, let's say, 10 to 20 year ago land developments, where it was mainly built on get in the car and drive to the Cockburn Central. You didn't have the corner stores. We'd lost that for a few decades. You're seeing that come back.
We're definitely seeing it come back. And even in Success, Predominant doesn't have a lot of shops apart from Cockburn Gateway Shopping City at the top end. But now at the bottom end of Success, it's got shops at the bottom end, but again, they're less than 10 years old, so that's where they have changed. But then furthermore from there, the new suburbs, they're actually designing them around these shopping. Treeby is a prime example. They've got the retirement village in there, they've got the community centre in there, they've got the IGA, the coffee shops already in there, the Mangdogalup estate. So I don't know if you've seen the Mangdogalup estate, which is just below Hammond Park, but again, that's going through the roof. We're talking $1 million in there now for a 400 square metre block.
Mangdogalup's a suburb that it's a Satterley and a Cube estate. You've seen the Florence estate signs there from Satterley on the freeway. Most people, I'd say 9 out of 10 people, if you said, where's Mangdogalup, they'd say, who's that?
Yeah, exactly. Would not have a clue. It was probably only 2 years ago that I actually really started to focus on it. And obviously that's, 2 or 3 years old now. But it took me a year after to start developing it. And we actually tendered for some of the blocks in there through Cube. And you can understand why, because when you drive through, you drive straight in, there's a coffee shop straight away. They've got childcare centres coming in there. They've eventually got the schools and the shops and all that going in there. So when you're looking at that, that is what people, and it's beautiful.
It's the amenity that's there already.
Yeah.
It's not 5-10 years away like some estates end up being. I like that. It's a really good insight. It's not many. Actually, no one said that before. Is that people are paying for the new place, but also it has to have those amenities straight away.
You can actually tell it because they have put the coffee shop in there from the start, and that's quite a new thing that they're doing. They've literally gone, right, we know that's going to be quite a key thing for people, so we'll put the coffee shop straight in there as soon as we open the estate. And it's quite surprising they did that, but it's had a massive impact on the community and on people buying in there.
It works.
And in the development of the landscape as well, because it is the amount they've spent on the trees and the landscape. Saturday always do beautiful estates, but people are paying more for that as well.
I'm interested in that you're not mentioning those established, what you would say, blue chip suburbs historically that they've been. We haven't heard you say Atwell, Success, Aubin Grove yet. And 10 years ago, those would have been top of the list, wouldn't they?
Atwell was always the premium. So it used to be, if you'd have said to me what's the number one suburb in that Cockburn region, Atwell would have always been the preference. People wanted the school. So people always wanted Atwell, and then there was Harvest Lakes development, and people always wanted the school, but it's massively changed. I think as time goes by, the newer schools come up, the newer schools get established, get a name for themselves, and people, it definitely is the suburbs. It's definitely those families that are going, we want the good schools, we want that within the same suburb. We see a massive pull for people wanting to walk to schools. That's a big draw card for people. Can the kids walk to school without crossing the main roads? But also in terms of the developments as well, same as Wandy's, Wandy's now commanding massive pricing, and that I still, Wandy's actually Quinana, but I still class it as part of the Cockburn hub.
It really is. I think it's Cockburn centric.
Exactly, and that newer development there is just going through the roof because, again, it was a development done very well. They didn't have the shop straight away, but that was just done really nicely, which again shot the pricing, and the school there. The school was...
I think the school was the focus, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got a Buttercups there, it's got the primary school, and the shops isn't that far away, the one in Aubin Grove.
Yeah, there's one at the bottom of Aubin Grove, and then you've got the middle of Aubin Grove. But that's what's happened. But Atwell's massively... I mean, Aubin Grove and Atwell still command huge pricing, but just not compared to the other suburbs when you compare them. And again, they're getting older now as well, so people are choosing that newer. And I think that the trend has changed. I bought smaller blocks myself, even in Aubin Grove, 300 square metres. Treeby, I've got 300 square metres. Hammond Park, I've got 200 square metres. But when I bought them 10 years ago, that wasn't the trend. Whereas now, everyone is going 4x2s on 190 square metres. No one bats an eyelid now.
Just affordability?
I don't think it's affordability. I think it's lifestyle as well. People don't want to be looking after their own gardens. They want to go down to the parks now. So I'm getting more and more people. I used to have to sell the fact that, look, the park's down the road. Yes, you've got no huge back garden, but you take the dog down to the park. You play at the dog park. Hammond Park's got a dog park. Aubin Grove, I believe, has Success, definitely has. Treeby's definitely got a dog park. And so that's how they're being designed. It's not being designed having all your stuff in your own. It's you live in your house very similar to what the English way is. You've got a home, you live there. Yes, you've got a beautiful home. You've got some space outside.
You sleep there.
Yeah, you sleep there. If you want to go to the park, you go to the park, and you take the kids there. You take the dogs there.
It's interesting because I think that's diametrically opposed to the historical Australian dream, where it's more characterised by the American dream of having your own backyard and your own barbecue, and the kids are playing at the back, and you've got the lawnmower out on a Sunday morning. I wonder if culturally that preference has changed in and of itself, or simply because it's all people can afford anyway, which sort of reflects how it was in London, in that have people gone, I don't want my own backyard, I don't want my own kingdom, I want to live a village lifestyle, or are they going, I can only really afford this, so this is how I'm going to shape my life?
Speaking very honest and openly, again, I think culturally though, when talking about that and looking at the type of buyers and the demographic of the buyers, culturally the buyers such as myself don't want big blocks. All my blocks that I own, I've had the big blocks. I've got 1,200 square meter blocks, and it's just money and maintenance constantly. And being English, I'm definitely prone to buying a smaller block, easy maintenance, and living a life yourself. But also the Indians, the Asian community, they also don't want. They're used to these high rises to being crammed in suburbs. So even the suburbs, how they're designed in Australia, is still amazing. So you mentioned the Australian dream. That is maybe the Australian dream is the bigger blocks, but these people that we're selling to aren't generally in tune with that Australian dream of these huge blocks. They're happy to go the smaller blocks and not have the maintenance, not have the hassles. And people are working more now as well. On the weekends, they want to just go out and chill instead of spending all time, maintaining the homes.
Very insightful, Tom. And it's those small nuances there that you can't see on a statistics page. You can't research this on RP data. This is the stuff that as an investor, you have to listen to this, absorb this from a qualitative point of view. And it may be that, hey, that 3x2 on 250 square meters possibly has a better trajectory over time than the 4x2 on 500 square meters.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not because of affordability, it's actually because of lifestyle preferences. I don't want to have the obligation of the 200 square meters at the back anymore.
Yeah.
As long as I'm close enough to the amenities. I think it's got to come as a package, Tom. If you're going to have the smaller block, it's got to have within 150 metres that amenity. You can't be at the back of the suburb with that. So why are people selling right now? Well, there's less people than ever selling right now. Last week we had only 700 bring their property to market. Stock on market is nearly at 3,500 properties, Tom. I don't think any of us would have imagined we'd be back here again this year, given the trajectory of the second half of last year. But we are. There's less people than ever selling. There's less properties for people like Tom Carlin to sell, despite the fact you are still selling big numbers. When they're calling you, why are they calling you?
You're getting a lot of separations at the moment, which is actually quite big in those suburbs. And again, that's caused by the pressures of life. I am still seeing that a lot. But generally, there's a lot of people upgrading and cashing in on what's happening now. We have seen a massive influx. We've probably lost about 30% of our rent roll over the past few years, where people are actually cashing in on the market. My opinion is that's actually, and I'll tell everyone this up front, why would you sell when you could rent it out? Because I do believe we are going to keep going up in value. I don't think we're slowing down anytime soon. But on the flip side, people are seeing it and go, no, it's time for me to cash in, take the profit.
At some point, there is always a time. And it might not be the perfect time financially.
Yeah, there definitely is. Keep in mind, some of these people have held these properties for 10 years plus. One that I've just sold, it's been on and off the market over the last 10 years 3 times, in the 700s, in the 800s. It's just sold for over 1.3 million. For those sellers, it's now is the time. I've had it rented out. Don't care if it's going to keep going up. I want to cash in.
I don't want to be greedy.
Yeah.
I mean, 1.3 is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they are selling. That's where a lot of people are trading, for that reason that, look, well, it's grown massively compared to what it was, so let's take the money out.
Let's say you've sold 100 properties as a round number in the last period of time. How many of them are investors? How many of them owner-occupiers?
40% at least investors, maybe even a bit more on some aspects. Because when I say investors, 40% like rentals, where they've gone, this is an investment, I've had it rented out. You do get some where they've built them to speculate, if you like, where they've built a new house. They're still investors, but a different type of investor. They've built it to sell. And then on top of that, you've then got where they're actually living there and they're going to go through either an upgrade or a separation. I'd say upgrading is actually difficult because there's only probably 20 to 30% of upgrading, which used to be a lot more. But the issue with upgrades now is that for them to get, I've probably got no word of a lie, at least 150 people on my books right now that say, Tom, we're going to use you, we're going to sell with you, but we can't find anything. And that's what's stopping the upgraders.
Well, it's a symptom of the current situation we're in right now, when you've only got 3,500 properties on the market, of which a high percentage, a material percentage of those is land and units. They're not upgrade solutions.
Yeah.
So So what's left? And I think that is compounding the problem right now in Western Australia, in that the more people expect growth, the less people put their property on their market because they don't want to miss out on that opportunity cost. And then the less opportunity there is for people to sell if they wanted to, because they do need to move. And it just spirals into this price growth situation when, at the end of the day, it just means no mobility.
Yeah.
And people can have their opinions on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that prices are growing. But I think we can all agree that a lack of mobility is a problem. What you're saying is you're seeing that materially in your area.
100%. It's actually frustrating for a few people. A few people need to move. And I'm talking, we've got families that have literally had extra children. They've got 2-3 children in one bedroom. They need to find something else. Whilst theirs has grown massively in value, everything they're looking at, they're getting snapped up because they've got to do subject sale. They can't afford to do the bridging finance. They can't afford to go and buy outright. But there's that much money in Perth at the moment as well, with investors, with the over east buying, with immigration people coming in where they've cashed up in the UK or in Asia and Asian countries, and they're pipping everyone to the post, and that is what's causing another issue as well.
How many of those investors are calling you from not a 08 number?
I'd say at least 30% of my market is definitely out of Perth. At least 30-40%.
And how do they operate? Are they, tell me the number and I'll put 10% on it and here's a cash offer? Or what does it look like with regards to an insight, if you can give us, about their psychology versus a Perth investor or a Perth owner-occupier?
All right, so their psychology is the fact of, and a lot of people see Perth as the golden child still, because Perth is a lower value than anywhere else in Australia. Maybe not Adelaide, but most of other cities in Australia. Perth is actually very affordable still. And so when I say investors as well, we're getting a lot of people speculate to go, we're going to buy a house now in Perth, but we're going to move in maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm getting a lot of that happening, where they go, we're going to buy it, we're going to rent it out. And when you look at that, you've got a doctor or nurse in Sydney earning very similar money to what a doctor or nurse is getting in Perth. However, a property there, they're spending 1.5 million on a property that's in a worse location than when you look at Perth in terms of, can I get to the beach? Can I get to a shopping centre? Can I get to a train station? Can I get to my work? They can come to Perth, paid off their whole mortgage because they made so much in Sydney, bought here for under $1 million, mortgage free, were 10 minutes closer to work than what they were, literally had better schools than what they'd sent the kids to, and it's like winning the lottery for these people. And so I'm getting a lot of that as well. A lot of people go, we don't care if we spend a bit more because the market in there is going to keep growing. And that's what I think is the difference with the locals. What kills me is the people a year ago that told me, no, Tom, I'm not paying this price, it's too much. I had a lady come through a property, refuse it at $550 3 years ago. Nothing's changed for her, and she just bought the exact same property at $850 off me. And it's 5 years ago, I know it's too much. I struggle with that mentality with some people in Perth. They don't see what a golden gem we're sat on in terms of our land.
Because we're in it.
Yeah, I went through a stage of not wanting to be in Perth, and it took me a long time to settle in here. But I now say to people, Perth is the best place on earth. And it's the people that don't see that are the locals that take it for granted. But you go anywhere else and look at the traffic and look at the jobs and look at the work-life balance. Perth is incredible for that. And everyone outside of Perth sees that. These investors look at it and go, yeah, I see it. That's where they are willing to go, look, if it's an extra 50-60 grand, yep, let's just go for it.
They're not haggling over that 10-20 grand that is just so inherently Perth to do that.
Yeah.
And then by that point in time, you go, oh, look, I'll do it for $820 now. And then Tom goes, sorry, mate, someone just bought it for $850.
Yeah, 100%.
And it was a 2-minute conversation.
Yeah, it is mad.
The reality people need to keep reminding themselves, when you talk about the $1.5 million in nowhere, that's think about having to pay $1.5 million in Byford.
Yeah.
That is Sydney.
Yeah.
So if your reality is that it's $1.5 million in Byford, in Sydney, you're going to come to Perth, you're going to come to Beeliar and look at that at $1.5 million for a much nicer house, one of the best houses in the suburb, and go 1.5, 1.6. You just tell me, Tom, we'll pay cash.
Yeah, it's definitely happening. And that's what people are loving, the fact that you do come here and you are very close. You are still 20, 30 minutes from the city. You're 5 minutes from an amazing shopping centre. You're 7 minutes from a beach. You've got the train line, and transport's obviously improving, but we do have still good transport links in Perth now, and people are taking advantage of it and they're willing to pay for it. And like I say, not just the over east though, we're getting a lot of immigration people coming in, and they're moving to Perth. They're coming for this brand new lifestyle. They're willing to go and get the big mortgage, especially from when you look at the English are happy to take the big mortgages out. They're happy to mortgage and go 50-60% of their income on mortgage repayments, compared to the Aussies. Most Aussies I find are wanting 20-30% of their income to be mortgage repayments.
Are mortgage repayments a limiter in your part of the world?
I wouldn't say it's a limiter in that Cockburn strip as much, because those buyers have generally moved down now. So those Cockburn buyers are limited by, this is all I can afford. I'm very volume based. I do most suburbs. I was down in Baldivis last weekend speaking to people, and I definitely see more of, this is all we can afford. Cockburn is still, we don't think it's worth it. So Cockburn is still around those suburbs. There's people that are paying it are people that have just sold for an absolute premium. So where they've cashed in themselves and they go, I've just got 200 grand more than what I thought. So yes, we'll pip everyone to the post. The people that are moving, the investors from over east are just buying on speculation because they're getting huge rents, or the people that are moving from interstate or from overseas. They're all just willing to pay it. And that's what that Cockburn market is made up of predominantly.
Wow. Let's play devil's advocate for a second. What would instigate stagnation in pricing in your part of the world?
I only think a global crisis or an issue with the mines or something like that. The mines do play a big factor in my market. Whether they work in the city for a mining company or they're in the mine size, that plays a massive... Yeah, so if anything happened with the mining industry, that to me is one of the biggest things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're quite centric, as you said, a lot of FIFO workers in the area.
Yeah.
Next year, 12 months from now, we are still in an undersupplied market, most likely. We still have a fairly constant demand of people coming through. Where do you think prices sit? Are they 5%, 10%, 20%? Obviously, kerosene on the fire with interest rates starts to have ripple effects on affordability as well.
Yep.
Are you middle of the ground here for your part of the world?
I'm going to say they're going to go up even in Perth in probably another 10%. That's the feeling I get. There's just too much... For small growth, there's too many people speculating that Perth's going to go huge. So yeah, people are willing to pay that bit more of a premium. So we're already seeing it where we've got a property that was on the market 3 months ago and it's just got an extra 60, 70 grand than what they could get 3-4 months ago.
So you've noticed the last month there's been a step change?
Oh yeah, you only need to, exactly what you're saying, 3,500 houses, you only need to look at that.
Yeah.
And I'm even telling my sellers that, look, if I can't get the price now, you wait 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm going to get it for you.
Don't stress.
Yeah. The one that I just sold for the one that I was saying about 1.3 million, that took me 2 months to sell it. When I first listed it, you're like, no chance of getting 1.3 million. Soon as now, it's, I sold it for 1.3, but that's actually a good, one in Mount Pleasant that I sold just under 5 million mark. Great price, amazing price when I sold it. I only sold it 3 months ago, but now it actually doesn't look like a great price because it was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
That's how quick the market's changing.
Yeah. Right now. And that's what I think I want everyone listening. This is a bit of a private club. Those people that choose to listen on a public basis here is there is a real realization coming in within the industry now that in correlation with stock on market getting back to the statistically arbitrarily FOMO levels of where it was last year, we're back there and we're seeing it on the ground and we're seeing a step change in dynamics again from where it was at the start of the year or just before Christmas. Last question, Tom, and it's a personal question, I guess. It's a very subjective question. Give me a street in your part of the world, Cockburn Central centric, which you would say would be your favourite street if I could just give you an unlimited amount of money, cash, and you could just go and rip that out of the owner's hands today on that street. Is there a favourite street of yours where you've always driven past and gone, I love this place. It's my mecca.
For me, I've always loved Aubin Grove, and I love the lake on Aubin Grove. So Cape Lag Grande Avenue, we've just sold on Cape Range, and around the lake there, it's probably one of the best pockets. You've got the lake, you've got the schools, you've literally got the local shops, and the bakery there. I love the bakery there. She's one of the best bakers around. So you could literally buy there, like I've just sold one. It is, the house is overlooking the lake, $1 million. You've got a beautiful house as well, just over $1 million, whatever. We sold it for 1.1 or 1.2. Walk to the school, walk to the shops. That was the original development in Aubin Grove. That would probably be one of my favourite streets, and you're right next to the bush as well.
That talks to an opportunity there because it hasn't been one of the highest growing parts in your area, as you spoke to.
100%. And as those suburbs keep developing, I think they'll come back as well. I think people will renovate these houses and develop them, and they will come back and grow more than others as well.
Location. At the end of the day, that is over time what drives things, and I think that's a great little insight for those people that are listening to the end of this episode. Have a look in Cape Lag Grande,
Aubin Grove. Cape Lag Grande Avenue, Aubin Grove.
Tom Carlin, thank you so much for coming in, mate. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you, mate.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Perth Property Show. If you've only just joined the conversation, you can catch up by heading over to our website, perthpropertyshow.com.au, subscribing to the podcast, or joining our Facebook page. Don't forget to tune in next Monday at 7 a.m. for more expert insights, local analysis, and suburb spotlights. Happy hunting!